I never could have anticipated what happened that night. Honestly, how could I? To me, she had always just been Trevor's mom, the warm, kind woman who made us snacks while we played video games or sat down to watch a movie. Nothing more, nothing less. But that night, everything shifted. It started like any other weekend. Trevor had invited me over to hang out and stay the night. We spent most of the day glued to the PlayStation, cracking jokes, and just having a great time, as we always did. It was nothing out of the ordinary, just two close friends enjoying themselves like usual. Trevor's mother, Mrs. Miller, was always present, though she never intruded. She was the kind of mom who would occasionally peek in to check on us, asking if we needed anything. I had always appreciated that about her. She was warm and welcoming, making me feel like part of the family. She always ensured I had food or a drink whenever I stayed over. But that particular evening, something felt different. That night stood apart from all the others. I remember it vividly. Trevor had gone upstairs to his room to grab something, leaving me alone in the living room. I was sprawled across the couch, my eyes locked onto the TV screen, trying to beat the high score on a game we had been obsessed with. I hadn't even realized how late it had gotten until I heard the sound of footsteps approaching from the hallway. When I glanced up, there she was, Mrs. Miller. But she wasn't just the familiar, motherly figure I had known for years. There was something about her that made me take a second look. She smiled at me, the same warm, welcoming smile she always had. But this time, there was something different in her expression, something deeper, something I hadn't noticed before. It made my heart skip a beat. "Hey, Jake," she said, her voice soft and smooth. "How's the game going?" I attempted to return her smile, but my throat suddenly felt dry. It's going well. Just trying to beat Trevor's score." She chuckled lightly, but somehow her presence felt more captivating than usual. "Well, don't get too caught up in it. There's a nice dinner waiting for you two once you're done." I nodded, trying to dismiss the odd sensation that had taken hold of me. It was silly, wasn't it? She was just being nice, as always. And yet, something in the air felt different. I turned back to my game, determined to concentrate, but my mind kept drifting. Mrs. Miller wasn't around much after that, aside from calling us to dinner. The rest of the evening proceeded normally, but each time my eyes found her, my pulse inexplicably quickened. It made no sense she was just Trevor's mom. I had known her for years, but that night felt different. After dinner, we all gathered in the living room for a movie. Trevor lounged on one couch, while I took the other, and Mrs. Miller sat in the armchair by the window, immersed in a book. Everything was routine. Everything was familiar. And yet, when I glanced over at her, I felt an unfamiliar tension rising within me. For just a moment, our eyes met. She was looking at me, but there was something new in her gaze, a fleeting expression that seemed to carry an unspoken meaning. It made me feel as though I was seeing her in a completely different light. My heart pounded, and for the first time, I wasn't sure how to behave around her. I quickly averted my eyes, embarrassed by the direction of my thoughts. This was wrong. She was Trevor's mom. I couldn't think this way. I tried to brush it off, but the feeling lingered, hanging in the air like a heavy mist. Later that night, after Trevor had gone to bed, I went to the kitchen to grab a drink. The house was silent, save for the low hum of the refrigerator. As I turned to head back to the living room, I nearly collided with Mrs. Miller, who had come downstairs as well. "Oh, sorry," I mumbled, my voice sounding oddly uncertain. "No need to apologize," she said, with a gentle smile. "I was just getting some water. Do you need anything?" I shook my head, striving to appear normal. "No, I'm good. Thanks, though." There was a brief pause before she spoke again. "You know, Jake, I've always appreciated the way you treat Trevor like a brother. It's not easy to find loyal friends these days." Her words caught me off guard. "Thanks," I replied, warmth spreading through my chest at the sincerity of her tone. For a moment, we just stood there, bathed in the dim glow of the kitchen light. The air between us felt heavy, charged with something I couldn't quite name. A connection that hadn't been there before seemed to be forming, but I had no idea what to make of it. Should I acknowledge it? Ignore it? Mrs. Miller eventually broke the silence. "Well, I should let you get back to your game. Don't want to keep you from beating Trevor's score." I nodded, my thoughts still reeling as I made my way back to the living room. As I sat down on the couch, I couldn't shake the question that lingered in my mind: what had just happened? Was I reading too much into things, imagining something that wasn't there? But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had shifted. I wasn't sure what it was, but I could feel it. There was a change in the air, in the way I saw Mrs. Miller, and I had no idea what to do about it. As I tried to focus on the TV screen again, my thoughts drifted back to her. Her smile, her eyes, the way she had affected me that night made me wonder if this was just the start of something complex. The following days felt different, as if an invisible shift had taken place between Linda and me. Her warm, familiar smile lingered in my thoughts longer than usual, and the time we spent together, whether in the kitchen or chatting over coffee, felt more significant than it ever had before. I attempted to dismiss these thoughts. After all, she was just my friend's mother, and I couldn't allow these unfamiliar emotions to interfere with my friendship with Trevor. Yet, there was something about her that captivated me, something beyond the kindness I had always admired. One evening, when Trevor was out with his friends, Linda and I found ourselves alone in the house. She asked if I could assist her with some gardening in the backyard, and I readily agreed. In fact, I welcomed the chance to be around her. As we worked side by side, I noticed how at ease she seemed, far more relaxed than usual. The usual formalities between us had disappeared, replaced by an atmosphere of comfort. I made a joke about my terrible gardening abilities, and she laughed, reminiscing about how she used to spend hours in the garden with Trevor when he was little. It was a simple exchange, but it made me feel closer to her, as if we were connecting on a level we never had before. Later that evening, as we sat down for dinner, I sensed something unusual. Linda's demeanor seemed different, quieter, more withdrawn. The warmth she usually radiated was replaced by a faint sadness in her eyes. I wondered if something was troubling her, but refrained from asking. Even so, the change in her didn't escape my notice. After dinner, as we tidied up together, I caught sight of her discreetly sliding a stack of letters into a drawer. The moment struck me as odd, and I couldn't help but wonder what those letters contained. I chose not to ask, but the curiosity lingered in my thoughts. The next morning, as I was leaving the house, I overheard Linda on the phone. Though I couldn't make out her words, she sounded upset, her voice trembling as if she were struggling to maintain her composure. It was a side of her I had never seen before. My mind kept returning to those letters and the phone call, making me uneasy. Had I done the wrong thing by listening in? Was something troubling her? I had always viewed Linda as a strong, independent woman who always had everything in order. But now I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story than I had ever realized. A few days later, I finally got some answers. I was visiting Trevor's house again, and this time, Linda and I were alone in the living room. She was folding laundry while I sat on the couch, half watching a game on TV. She seemed distant, lost in thought. Eventually, I couldn't keep my concern to myself any longer. "Linda, is everything all right?" I asked softly. "You seem different, not like yourself." She hesitated for a moment, then let out a quiet sigh, sitting down beside me. She studied me carefully, as if debating whether or not to share what was on her mind. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been thinking a lot about the past lately," she admitted, her gaze dropping to the floor. "There's so much I've never shared with anyone, things I've kept to myself for years." I wasn't sure how to respond. I felt a deep sympathy for her, but I didn't want to pressure her into revealing anything she wasn't ready to discuss. Instead, I waited in silence, giving her space to continue. "I was married once," she said eventually, her voice steady yet subdued, "to someone who wasn't the person I thought he was. Our marriage was full of empty promises, ones that were never kept. It was a painful time, and I've never truly allowed myself to process everything that happened." I listened intently, completely drawn in by her words. Seeing this vulnerable side of Linda, one she had kept hidden from everyone, was both heartbreaking and eye-opening. I had always viewed her as a strong, confident woman, but now I understood that her past carried wounds I had never imagined. "I stayed in that marriage for far too long," she continued, her voice tinged with regret. "I believed I could fix things, but it only made everything worse. When I finally found the courage to leave, I had to start my life over from nothing. It wasn't easy, but I did it. Now, I'm just trying to move forward." I could hear the pain in her voice, and it made my heart ache for her. This wasn't the Linda I had always known. This was a woman who had endured immense hardship and come out stronger, though the weight of her past still lingered. "I had to be strong for Trevor," she added, her voice faltering slightly. He needed me, and I couldn't let him see me fall apart. But sometimes it's exhausting to keep pretending that everything is fine. There it was, the truth behind the sorrow I had sensed in her. It was as if a barrier had been lifted, revealing the real Linda, a woman who had suffered greatly, yet had never allowed anyone to witness her pain. I could still see her strength, but now I also recognized the cracks in her armor. Linda, I had no idea, I murmured, my voice soft with understanding. I never knew you had been carrying all of that. She gave me a small, bittersweet smile. Most people don't, she replied, but it's fine. I've learned to cope with it. Sometimes, though, the past has a way of resurfacing. We sat quietly for a moment, the weight of her words lingering between us. I wasn't sure how to respond, but I was certain of one thing: I wanted to be there for her. Even if all I could do was listen, I wanted to help. That night, I couldn't stop replaying Linda's words in my mind. The more I dwelled on them, the more I realized just how much I admired her, not just for the way she had raised Trevor, but for her sheer determination in the face of hardship. As I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the thought that maybe there was something more between us than mere friendship. It was an idea I had never allowed myself to entertain before, but now it was becoming impossible to ignore. I wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. After Linda's revelation, the dynamic between us shifted even further. There was an unspoken energy in the air that I couldn't dismiss. It wasn't just the way she looked at me now. As if seeing me differently, it was the way I looked at her too. Every shared moment sent a pull through my chest, a tangled mix of emotions I couldn't fully grasp. Trevor, unaware of the silent changes unfolding between his mother and me, remained his usual self. He spent most of his time with friends or shut away in his room, leaving Linda and me alone more often than I had expected. I could see that she still bore the burden of her past, but she worked hard to keep up appearances. Her strength was evident in everything she did, managing the household, checking in on Trevor, and maintaining a smile. Meanwhile, I found myself increasingly preoccupied with thoughts of her. It wasn't just a desire to support her. Something deeper, something far more complex, was stirring inside me, and I had no idea how to deal with it. And that tension between us, it was growing harder to ignore. One afternoon, as we sat in the kitchen eating lunch, our conversation took a more personal turn. Trevor had mentioned something about his upcoming graduation, and Linda had smiled, expressing her pride. But as she spoke, there was a sadness in her eyes that I couldn't quite understand. I always imagined I'd be the one helping him through these big milestones, she murmured, her voice laced with emotion. His father should be here for all of this. I didn't know how to respond. Trevor's dad had been absent for so long, and I had no real grasp of how much that absence still affected Linda. I could only imagine the toll it had taken on her, especially since she had always been the one holding everything together. Linda, you've done more than enough for him, I told her, hoping to reassure her. You've been an amazing mother. Trevor is lucky to have you. She held my gaze for a long moment, her expression softening. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Sometimes I feel like I'm not enough." My heart clenched for her. She was such a strong, independent woman, but in that moment, I glimpsed her vulnerability. It was as though a small crack had formed in the carefully built walls around her, and I couldn't ignore the overwhelming urge to protect her. Later that night, I found myself staying over at Trevor's place again. This time, he wasn't home, it was just me and Linda. We sat on the couch, the television playing in the background, but the space between us felt thick with everything left unsaid. I couldn't stop thinking about her, about all she had endured, about how much she had come to mean to me. But I didn't know if I should say anything or if I even could. The quiet moments between us felt heavier than ever. Every time she shifted beside me, I felt the pull, the way my pulse quickened with every glance, every word. The tension between us was becoming impossible to ignore, and I knew I had to confront it, even if I didn't have all the answers. "Linda," I started, but my voice faltered. It didn't feel like the right moment or the right words. "I just want you to know that I'm here for you if you ever need to talk, or if there's anything I can do." She turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "Jake, I don't know what's happening between us," she admitted softly, her voice steady yet uncertain. "But I don't want to make things complicated. You're Trevor's friend, and I can't do anything to jeopardize that." I swallowed hard, her words hitting me like a blow. I understood her hesitation. She was trying to protect us both from the complications that would come if we crossed a line. But at the same time, I couldn't deny my feelings for her. "I don't want to complicate anything either," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I also can't act like nothing's changed. You've been there for me in ways no one else has, and I can't just ignore that." Her eyes softened, and for a brief moment, it seemed like she was about to say something else. But she didn't. Instead, she simply nodded, as if letting my words sink in. We sat in silence, the weight of everything between us pressing down, neither of us sure what to do next. "I have no idea what this is," she finally admitted, her voice low but unwavering. "However, we can't allow it to affect Trevor. He's endured so much already, and I refuse to add more to that." I nodded, fully grasping her concern, but the reality was that the harder I tried to suppress my emotions, the more they surfaced. Hurting Trevor was the last thing I wanted, yet at the same time, I couldn't disregard what I felt for Linda. The following days drifted past in a haze. I saw Linda less frequently, and whenever our paths did cross, our interactions were fleeting. It was clear she was deliberately keeping her distance, attempting to put some space between us, yet the unspoken tension between us only grew. Every shared glance, every small smile she offered, felt like something simmering just beneath the surface, threatening to break free. One evening, while visiting Trevor again, I resolved to take action. I needed clarity to understand exactly where we stood. I had to know if Linda felt the same, or if I was merely overanalyzing everything. When Trevor stepped out to take care of some errands, I found myself alone with Linda once again. The air between us was thick with unspoken words, but this time I refused to back down from the truth. Linda, I spoke, my voice steady, despite the nervous energy coiling in my chest. I need to ask you something. She turned toward me, a flicker of uncertainty in her expression, yet she didn't retreat. What is it, Jake? She asked. I need to know where we stand. The words spilled out faster than I had anticipated. I can't keep acting like nothing's changed. There's something happening between us, and I can't ignore it anymore. Do you feel it too? Linda's expression softened, and for the first time in days, she looked like she was ready to be honest. But before she could utter a word, the front door swung open, cutting the moment short. Trevor had returned. Just like that, the opportunity vanished. The weight of silence grew heavier as Trevor entered, entirely oblivious to the thick tension lingering in the air between his mother and me. Linda quickly composed herself, putting on a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Hey, Trevor, she greeted, her voice level. How was your trip? Good, he replied, dropping his bag by the door. Picked up a few things for the weekend. What's up? What were you guys talking about? I nodded, forcing myself to act normal. Not much, just hanging out. Trevor's gaze flickered between us, a small, knowing smile tugging at his lips. You both seem pretty serious. What's going on? Nothing, just chatting. Linda quickly interjected, shooting me a look. Right, Jake? I forced a smile, though it felt hollow. Yeah, just catching up. Trevor didn't seem entirely convinced, but he chose not to press the matter. His mind was likely preoccupied with the weekend ahead. Still, as the evening progressed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. I had come so close to breaking through the silence between Linda and me, yet now it felt like the opportunity was slipping away. Later that night, after dinner, Linda and I shared a quiet moment in the kitchen. Trevor had retreated to his room, and the house settled into an uneasy calm. As I washed the dishes, Linda leaned against the counter, her hands gripping the edge as if steadying herself. Jake, she said softly but firmly, about earlier. I turned to her, my pulse quickening. Yeah? She exhaled, her eyes avoiding mine. We've been dancing around this tension, but I don't want to complicate things more than they already are. Trevor has been through so much, and I can't do anything that might hurt him. I understood. She was trying to shield him, and I couldn't fault her for that. But at the same time, I couldn't deny what was happening between us. I get it, I said, drying my hands on a towel. I don't want to hurt him either. But I also need to be honest with you, Linda. I can't keep pretending nothing's going on. I feel something, and I don't know how to handle it. Linda's expression softened, but uncertainty remained in her gaze. Jake, I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to make things more complicated than they already are. But I also can't keep pretending I don't care. Her honesty was clear in her eyes. She was just as conflicted as I was. But the barriers she had built over the years still stood firm, and she wasn't ready to tear them down just yet. I know this is complicated, I admitted, my voice quieter now, but I need to know if you feel the same way. Is this real, or is it just something fleeting that will pass? A heavy silence stretched between us. My heart pounded, my palm suddenly clammy. It was the question I had been dreading to ask, but I couldn't keep running from it. Linda met my gaze, searching for something truth, certainty, and for a fleeting moment, time seemed to stand still. I don't know, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can't pretend nothing is happening. I'm not ready to dive into anything, Jake. I need time to sort things out. I nodded slowly. I understand. I'm not rushing you. But I also don't want to be stuck in limbo forever. I need to know where I stand. She didn't respond immediately, her eyes drifting toward the window. It's just hard, she murmured. I've been so focused on Trevor for so long that I forgot what it feels like to think about myself, to think about this. She gestured between us, uncertainty clouding her expression. I don't know if I'm ready. I saw the weight behind her words, the burden she had carried for years. Being a mother, especially a single one, had consumed her life in ways I couldn't fully comprehend. Now, faced with the possibility of something new, something unknown, she wasn't sure if she was ready to take that step. I'm not asking you to have all the answers right now. I stepped closer to her, my voice gentle. I just need you to understand that no matter what you decide, I'm here. She lifted her gaze to meet mine, searching my eyes as if trying to gauge my sincerity. I believe you, she murmured, her tone soft, but this isn't something that will happen overnight. I get that, I replied, keeping my voice firm. Take all the time you need. The tension in the room remained, but it had changed. It was no longer the heavy, suffocating silence from before. Instead, it was an unspoken understanding, a delicate truce between us. The days that followed blurred together in uncertainty. Linda seemed withdrawn, lost in her own thoughts, while I struggled to rein in my emotions. Trevor remained oblivious to the situation, and I did everything I could to maintain normalcy for him. Still, I couldn't shake the nagging sense that a shift was coming. Linda and I were walking a tightrope, suspended between our past and an uncertain future. Every step felt like it was leading us toward an unavoidable moment, one that would change everything. As the days passed, emotions ran high. Linda and I tried to navigate the strain between us, doing our best to keep things feeling normal for Trevor. But the space between us was growing, no matter how much we tried to suppress our emotions. We were both pretending, forcing ourselves to ignore feelings that were becoming too overwhelming to deny. It was clear that this limbo couldn't last forever. Trevor, unaware of the evolving dynamic, remained wrapped up in his own world weekend plans and time with friends, while I struggled with the weight of everything pressing down on me. The pressure was unrelenting, and I knew I couldn't continue pretending. Everything inside me screamed for something more. One evening, After dinner, I found Linda sitting on the couch, lost in thought. I had been going back and forth about whether to bring it up, but the silence between us was becoming unbearable. If we didn't face this head on, we would remain trapped in this strange, in-between space. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. Linda, we need to talk. She glanced up at me, a faint smile on her lips, but the hesitation in her eyes was unmistakable. Jake, I know. I've been thinking about it too. I sat down beside her, my heart pounding. We can't keep pretending nothing is happening. This thing between us, it's real, and it's not just going to disappear. I can't act like I don't feel this. She inhaled deeply, her gaze dropping to her hands. I know, Jake. I feel it too. But this isn't just about us. It's about Trevor and what's best for him. I nodded, understanding her concerns. I don't want to hurt him either. But if we keep ignoring this, it's only going to fester. That's not fair to either of us. Linda's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, the conflict evident on her face. She wanted something, but fear held her back. I just don't know what the right thing to do is anymore. I can't risk messing things up, especially for Trevor. He's already been through so much. Gently, I placed my hand over hers. We can't go on like this, pretending nothing has changed. Whether we admit it or not, we're in this together. She squeezed my hand, her voice barely above a whisper. But what if we're making a mistake? What if we're rushing into something that isn't meant to be? I shook my head, holding her gaze. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I can't keep pretending I don't care about you. We owe it to ourselves to at least see where this could lead. She remained silent for a long moment, the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her. I could feel her internal struggle, the battle between what she wanted and what she believed was right. Finally, she spoke, her voice unsteady. I don't want to hurt Trevor, she admitted, but I don't want to lose what we might have either. I leaned in slightly, my voice soft. We don't have to rush, Linda. We can take it slow, but we need to stop pretending this isn't happening. We owe it to ourselves and to Trevor to be honest. She nodded slowly, her expression a mix of uncertainty and relief. All right, let's take it one step at a time. Let's figure this out together. But we need to be careful for Trevor's sake. He can't find out until we're sure. I agreed immediately. Of course, we'll be cautious, but we can't keep pretending. A quiet moment passed between us, and something shifted. It wasn't a dramatic declaration of love, nor did it resolve everything. But it was a start, a promise to stop hiding from our own emotions. Just then, Trevor walked into the room, and we both quickly composed ourselves. He was completely unaware of the emotional storm that had been raging between us. His innocent smile and the casual question he asked served as a stark reminder of what was at stake. Hey, what's going on? Everything okay? He asked, glancing between us. Linda quickly wiped her eyes, offering him a reassuring smile. Yeah, Trevor. Everything's fine. Just talking. I nodded, working to mask the turmoil still swirling inside me. Yeah, just catching up. Trevor studied us for a moment, sensing something different, but not quite grasping what it was. After a beat, he shrugged and walked away, leaving us alone once more. I turned back to Linda, my heart still racing. We're doing the right thing, aren't we? She met my eyes, her gaze steady with determination. I think so, but we have to take it slow. We can't rush this, we have to be smart. I smiled, feeling an unexpected sense of relief. We'll figure it out together. And in that moment, a sense of calm washed over me. It wasn't the conclusion of our story, but rather the beginning of something new. Something uncertain, yet undeniably real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope for whatever the future might hold.